The United States is preparing for the possibility of having to evacuate hundreds of thousands of Americans living in the Middle East should the war escalate. That's according to a report from the Washington Post. Officials familiar with the government's contingency planning telling the Post that this is a worst-case scenario. According to the State Department, there are approximately 600,000 U.S. citizens living in Israel and 86,000 living in Lebanon. The Post reporting the Biden administration is deeply alarmed at the possibility of the war escalating. This comes as the Israeli army said it intensified its airstrikes against Hamas in Gaza, striking 400 targets in the past 24 hours, continuing its retaliation for the October 7th attacks that killed more than 1,400 people and injured more than 5,000 in Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces said its strikes killed 3 Hamas deputy commanders Monday night. Palestinian authorities say Israeli airstrikes have killed more than 5,000 people in Gaza, including more than 15,000 that are injured. Earlier on Monday, Hamas released 2 Israeli hostages, though the Israeli government says the 2 women's husbands remain in Gaza, among the more than 200 still being held up by the militant group. Hamas released 2 American hostages last week. President Joe Biden spoke to Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Monday afternoon about securing the release of all hostages, providing safe passage for U.S. citizens and others in Gaza, and sustaining a flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza after Israel cut off food, water, and fuel into the territory following the attack. Biden said Monday there should be no ceasefire until hostages are released. Former President Barack Obama released a statement Monday night backing Israel's right to defend itself while urging the Israeli military to abide by international law, saying any strategy that ignores human cost could ultimately backfire. The former president wrote Israel's blockade on Gaza not only could worsen a growing humanitarian crisis, but, quote, it could further harden Palestinian attitudes for generations, erode global support for Israel, play into the hands of Israel's enemies, and undermine long-term efforts to achieve peace and stability in the region.